All right, I now call the Forest Lake Area School regular school board meeting for Thursday, February 19th to order. Please join us while we recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Member Clerk, will you please take the roll call of attendance?
Yep. Member Rebbeline.
Here.
Member Corcoran. Here. Member Antonsen is here. Member Christensen.
Here.
Member Tyson.
Here.
And Member Castle.
Here.
Everybody's here.
All right, great. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Brings us to scheduled and unscheduled visitors this evening. I have 2 green cards. I'll get this really quick here. Although the board's not legally required to offer public comment, we believe it's an important part of community interaction and have included it on tonight's agenda. We ask that speakers keep their comments relevant to the indicated agenda item, be respectful, avoid personal comments about board members, and refrain from sharing private or sensitive information. This process is not interactive. We request that everyone present be respectful of commenters and refrain from making their own comments or applauding to help keep things moving. Speakers will have 3 minutes. The clerk will give notification to speakers as their time is expiring, and the chair will strike the gavel once your time has expired. Shuffled both of the green cards here, and we'll call speakers by first name and last initial. Please be ready when it's your turn. We'll start with Claire L. And Andy C. will be on deck.
Hi. Good evening, Dr. Massey and school board members, and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm here to speak on agenda item 7.1, the appointment of district legal counsel. Like many other community members, I am very concerned with the idea of Mr. Beck representing the Forest Lake School District. I'm going to speak respectfully, but frankly. First and foremost, Mr. Beck seems to move to a different employer every few years, at least throughout the last decade. In any employment setting, the instability of that non-committal pattern would be concerning, even more so for a public school district where taxpayer costs and our reputation are involved. In addition to the apparent inability to stay on board with the same firm for more than a few years, it also isn't clear who exactly Beck Law Group is. It doesn't appear to exist. This is in contrast to what appears to the Minnesota Judicial Branch records, which places Mr. Beck with Robichaud, Schroepfer, and Correa. Of course, there might be a reasonable explanation for the inconsistency, but as with many agenda items over the last year, we have yet another transparency issue with the lack of public information on this 2-week-old agenda item. For context, it's worth noting that every other attorney recommended by administration and appointed as legal counsel has a well-detailed resume publicly available for review. Mr. Beck's lack of experience representing public school districts is probably the biggest red flag because it means he's not qualified to represent Forest Lake area schools. While Mr. Beck's case history and affiliation suggest that he's very comfortable suing school districts, school law clearly isn't his area of practice, and that opens the district up to easily avoidable vulnerabilities that could be avoided with a more responsible recommendation. Because while anyone can sue a school district for any claim, the opposite isn't true. As with public education funding, public education law is complex, and our schools, our students, and our employees deserve appropriate representation that is in alignment with our district values. Our district taxpayers deserve to know that their dollars are being spent responsibly, and it is clearer than ever that experience and knowledge of public education make a difference. There are seasoned and knowledgeable attorneys with far clearer reputations for professionalism and good ethics, some of whom are from the same firms that already represent the district and who MSBA recommended. Those are the attorneys the school board should consider tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, that brings us to Andy C.
Well, it's hard to follow Claire after that, but yeah, I would like to add to that, pursuant to what she said about 7.1, it seems Mr. Beck has a focus on HR and employer-oriented or employer-facing outward law practice, and it doesn't seem to me, from what I could surmise from research, to be an all-inclusive or comprehensive educational legal representation to have on retainer, just as a general, like, overarching attorney to have on hand. I think we can do better. And Claire gave a very nice background as to where we can do better as well, in addition to what I just cited. So I think that's probably enough for that. And then I just wanted to say a few words of encouragement for the Achievement and Integration Plan, to just accept that for what it is. I'm excited to see what some of those metrics produce over the next couple of years in our students and at the independent buildings. And so, yeah, let's see what happens with that. And thank you guys for what you're about to do tonight. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Andy. All right, that brings us to committee reports. I'll start with the 916 report. The report is very brief this evening. When we had our last meeting on February 4th, we met with our lobbyists there. They gave us an update on the upcoming 2026 legislative session, legislative platform that the intermediate school districts have adopted. And we also worked through approval of the legislative platform, and we approved the dates for the extended school year and summer programming for various 916 programs in 2026. And that concludes my report. Which will bring us to Buildings and Grounds Committee Report. Director Renberg-Eide.
Thank you very much. We had a wonderful evening tonight at the maintenance building, and so we know that that's coming up for roof and also fire suppression redoing this summer, and so we got to see the need for that. While we were there, we also got to review all of our grounds equipment and talk about that and the replacement schedule that we have. We also talked about snow plowing, so we usually plan for around 3 to 8 snow events in a winter, and so we are just at that low end. We've had 3 so far. We're only in February, so there'll be a couple more, but looking good for snow plowing this year. And then the other thing that we talked about is our partnership with the City of Forest Lakes. So Community Ed Director McKinnon and I have been meeting with the Parks and Rec person at the city, Kyle Young, along with the maintenance director, Dave, and we've been working on our fields and our recreation areas in the district, talking about the fact that they have fields, we have fields of baseball, of lacrosse, of all those areas. And so we're looking to do a comprehensive study with the city on all the recreational spaces within the district, including the ice arena and also the potential of a pool, need for a pool in the community. And so with that, we'll be looking to undergo a study with a firm that specializes in recreational areas, and through the month of March and April, and then bring that back to the board and talk about what those needs might be. And the main thing here is we're each doing the same thing in a very close space to each other, and so we want to make sure that we're utilizing everything that we can to be as efficient and cost effective as possible. And so that's what we've been working on for the last couple months, but just wanted to report out on that. And that was our Buildings and Grounds Committee.
Wonderful. Did anybody have any questions? All right, seeing none, we'll move to Finance Director Renberg-Eide.
Thank you. So in finance tonight, we did our budget status and enrollment update. Both are looking really good. We talked about what our budget planning will look like and different committees that are happening legislatively and other as we prepare for that FY27 budget. We did also talk about the work around the rebounding that we've done, including sending an email and letters to families that are changing buildings, making sure where they want to be. As a reminder to families, March 1st is that deadline to get, if anyone wants to stay at an elementary that they had a boundary change into a different one, they need to get that in-district transfer form to us by March 1st. We did then go into self-insurance fund balance, just talking again about how we can make sure that we're getting that fund into the positive, but also making sure we're not getting increases that are too large for that. And then we did the federal audit. So we reviewed the audit. We have about $4.5 million worth of federal funds. That audit came back with an unmodified opinion, clean opinion, and so that will be presented to the board and hopefully accepted coming up here on March 5th.
All right, thank you. I did have one question on the self-insurance fund balance. How is that looking?
It's looking really good. So we were negative only by about $365,000 last year. So we
Yep.
anticipate about over $1 million positive next year. So that's really exciting.
That's an excellent one-year turnaround as well. Did anybody else have any other questions? All right, seeing none, we will move to Director McKinnon for the inaugural report from Communications, Family, and Student Engagement.
Yes, with our newly branded name. Tonight we started off with just an overview of our current monthly topics and then talked about areas of which we may want to look to expand. We talked about social media and marketing in our district, and really the use of social media and what we are and what we are not. We're not necessarily marketing focused per se. However, it is certainly marketing when we're showing kids who are engaged in classrooms, all the different activities. Each of our schools have their independent or individual Facebook pages. Our sports booster clubs have them. Our PTOs have them. Community Ed, we have one. Early Childhood has one. So lots of different ways at which our district does get shown in a very positive light. We moved on to talk about the quarterly newsletter, although, as Renee said, newsletter might not be the best name for it because it's not necessarily all just about news, but more about things people need to know and getting that information out. Information like this is being registration season and kindergarten enrollment, key dates that are things that are coming up. Here's what's going on with the bullying prevention work group that's being done in the district. So ways of getting now the information out to our families on a quarterly basis. And then we transition into our elementary reboundary communications, again, continually making sure that everything possible that can be known to families with this reshift that's coming up here from this year to next is out there. And very individualized letters actually went out recently. It was 5 different versions of those letters depending upon what your situation was. If you were moving from one elementary geographic location to another, or if you live in one elementary geographic location but you've been like in district enrollment to another. So identifying what people's specific circumstances were then dictated what type of letter they got for individual communication there. And then we closed out with some, just an update on our community ed catalog. Our catalog got out there. It was a little bit delayed. We had some printer delays that were on the printer's end that we've been able to work through. And so the winter catalog is there, and the spring one will be coming very soon. We're always in catalog mode, and then gave an update on just some registration software stuff that we have in community ed.
All right, thank you. Any questions? Member
I
Atkinson?
have a question, and it was a lot of conversation there tonight. I'm happy to be part of this committee for the first time. Do you typically or historically have you had community members on this committee, parents? No?
We certainly can. We have had some, and then some come and some drop. Now we have 2 administrators or principals on there, but along with Renee and myself, and we certainly would welcome the perspective of any and others. We've put it out there to our principals to recruit if they know anybody that have. That's how we've most often got some of our community members to
Okay.
become more involved and engaged in that committee.
Okay.
And then invariably things come up or
Yeah.
schedules get full and then they drop off. But
Yeah.
we have, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm just thinking with the update to the name and the focus expanding to families and student engagement. I'm sorry I didn't bring it up earlier, but we were talking about a lot of different things, and
Yeah.
I just didn't have, the window, so I just thought I'd bring it up now as a possibility to think
Yeah,
about it.
it's a good time now to go back to our admin team, much like we've done in the past, and say, hey, we welcome the perspectives, because, I mean, I look at it through the lens of a district administrator and a community ed director. Renee looks at it through the lens of the communications coordinator. Getting the perspective of our principals is awesome. Getting
Yeah.
teachers or community members saying, here's what communications is, right, 2-way.
Yeah.
Message out, message receive, and making sure that our message is being received is very important to us, and we welcome that perspective.
Yeah. Great.
Member Christensen?
Director McKinnon, and to Member Antonsen's point, it's a little different, but there's also the Community Ed Advisory Council, which meets monthly, and it doesn't have the same focus as the committee that just changed now, but there's 3, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, at least 3 community members on that.
Yeah, there's
Committee.
5. I think there's 3 that show up every
Yeah,
single
so
meeting, and
that's
they've
what
been
I'm,
coming for many years. Yeah.
Just to your point, I mean, there's community involvement on that committee. It's not, the exact
Yeah.
same, but.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's welcomed participation,
Yeah.
given
Okay,
the
yeah.
topics that we cover. Absolutely.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Member Tyson?
And we also talked about in tonight's meeting how when we went through a lot of communication transitions and changes and updates with working on logo and working on taglines and all that stuff, we had a very robust group. And I think we've fine-tuned a lot of things. We talked about how the digital backpack has made its final transition and has been around for a while now. So I think we're at a point where, with the new name, we can maybe engage some more people. But
Absolutely.
there was a time when there weren't enough cheers in there, so. And then can we talk about, or can we share what Renee's thinking for the name of the newsletter? Renee?
Yeah, because it's awesome.
It's awesome. She said, yes, go ahead. It's going to be called the Ranger Family Connect. So
Yep.
we're excited.
Yep.
That quarterly newsletter.
Little more colorful than quarterly newsletter.
Nice, yeah. Sounds good.
Definitely.
So, and that'll be mailed?
Definitely.
Yes. Yeah, that is mailed, right, Renee? Emailed.
Email.
Okay. And that will include a, please join the committee?
There you go.
There you go.
Awesome. All right, anything else? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to Curriculum Instruction and Equity Director Jacobson.
Yes, thank you for having me. This evening, we had Kelly Wilson, our Director of Special Education, join us to talk about our scope of special education services that we offer to our families, to our communities throughout the school district. We started by talking about the overlap or the connection to general education, knowing that all of our students are general education first, and that special education is there to support them in the general ed setting and provide those whatever level of access or need that they have. Our committee learned that in special education services, we service families, students all the way to age 22, and as early as birth or even earlier than that, if there's a known disability prior to birth, we provide services to that family. Director Wilson talked us through the different tiers of support, starting with Tier 1 in the classroom, certain programs and ways that we use funds to provide supports even prior to special education services, because our goal as a district is not to grow our special education program, but instead to have just the right dose of support for whatever a student needs. And then we talked about the federal settings, federal setting 1, 2, and 3, what is the difference between the different federal settings, and then federal setting 4, what happens if a student and a family and an IEP team agree that a federal setting 4 is what's the best, most appropriate level of service for a student, and talking a little bit about how 916 operates in that regard. So really vibrant discussion, really good question. We had questions. We had some committee members who happen to be parents of current or former special education students in our district as part of this discussion, and so it was, it was a good discussion all around.
All right, thank you, Director Jacobson. Does anybody have any questions?
No, I just thought it was a great presentation. I learned a lot. I thought I knew a lot about special ed, but Director Wilson did a great job explaining it all and kind of the different tiers. And I remember one of the members on the committee also said the misunderstanding of special ed in the community sometimes.
Yep.
And how people don't really understand how it's funded and, you know, how that money's brought into the district. So
Yeah.
that's something that'd be nice to, you know, it's hard to explain, but, you know, it's something we can look at for the future, for more education. But thank you. That was a great presentation. Yeah.
For sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we will move to Policy, Director Friedman.
Good evening. Kindly forgive me. I sound like a frog. It is what it is. So this evening we talked about the student transportation safety policy and making some structural changes to that would bring it more into alignment with the MSBA model, which is not required, but it might be helpful both from a user perspective as well as from a staff perspective. And we also talked about the student information, student data usage policy, and we talked about just basically adding 10 pages to it that we have previously omitted, permissibly omitted from it, trying to make it more user-friendly. But we've determined that if it's going to be not user-friendly, 20 pages is probably about the same as 30, and it will help staff be able to figure out where the changes are coming in and being able to track those a little bit better. So, and then we had some conversation about our directory information, which has changed. So to bring that into alignment with state statute. Okay, that's it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to Staff Welfare. Dr. Massey.
All right, we covered a number of topics, some of which have already been addressed by other directors in their committees, one of which was enrollment. I'm happy to continue to share that enrollment is trending in a very stable way. we are trending ahead of the number that we budgeted for the year, and that just means that we are on the positive side of enrollment. While enrollment isn't necessarily increasing, it's staying steady. The year after year trend of losing 100 students, give or take, we're entering a different era where we are factoring much less loss than we have in the past. So that is a really positive trend with the backdrop of fewer kids living in our district, declining birth rates. So I think that's a really positive testament to the overall appeal our district has to the community and surrounding communities. We talked about our budget development work. We are in the throes of that work now. As was mentioned in other committees, the boundary work that we did a year ago, if you recall, we made significant changes to elementary boundaries that tied into the closing of one of our elementary schools. And the reason for that was to create more efficiency in terms of our elementary schools. And with one less elementary school, shifting boundaries as we get through the communication with families around where their new elementary school boundary is, and getting information from families on on whether or not they're going to actually move to that school or drive their kids to their current school. As we sort through that, we're getting really clear indications that we created really nice balanced schools that will lead to more efficiency in grade level enrollment and, as a result, grade level staffing. So from less efficiency to more efficiency is just going to be a positive development with budgeting and staffing overall. So we're excited about that development. We also spent some time talking about and providing updates to the conversation that emerged about a week ago around concerns with LifeTouch, our photography service. And I spent a lot of time with our directors studying that issue, trying to better understand the dynamics of that issue over the last number of days, consulting with other districts, other superintendents, reviewing the communication from LifeTouch, the CEO from LifeTouch, to conclude that the concerns with the financier for Shutterfly that bought LifeTouch 5 years ago, that the Shutterfly and the Apollo, the funding group for Shutterfly, is several layers removed from the actual operation of LifeTouch. We received assurances from LifeTouch that none of the student data, student files, was ever breached by the financier for Apollo Management Company or any other breach of the student files. So our student photos and the billions of other student photos nationwide have been secure, have always been secure, and has never been a breach. So with that level of assurance and confidence, we are going to continue with LifeTouch and continue to monitor whether or not for other developments should there be one. But I think that's the prudent way to go at this time. We have a number of engagements yet this year that we want to continue to provide for our families, and we'll monitor moving forward.
Yeah.
And that would conclude my report.
All right, thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Massey. Does anybody have any questions? Member Castle?
So there was an email, and it was suggested that we use a local company to do this instead. So have we ever done bidding to find out if that would be feasible?
You know, we have not done a request for proposals for a local photography company. The level of service that we receive is quite extensive. Not to say that a local provider couldn't provide that, but we get our student ID badges, our staff ID badges. They provide photos and support for yearbooks across all of our elementary schools. They do class photos, they do student photos in the fall and again in the spring. So it's quite extensive, and they are a comprehensive organization that provides a real depth of service. It doesn't mean that we couldn't go out for a request for a proposal, should the board want us to do that.
Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, seeing no other discussion, does anybody have any item they would like removed from the consent agenda? All right, in that case, I would entertain a motion to approve 6.1 through 6.3.
So moved.
Second?
A motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries. Brings us to action items, appointment of school district legal counsel 7.1. This is being brought back in limited scope. This is to approve, as the document indicates here, this is to approve Beck Law Group. This law firm is being brought to the board for consideration on the representation and expertise, specific expertise of understanding the nuance of being an elected official. This isn't a school district general counsel. This is more understanding the difference between elected officials, employees, volunteers, those different student groups. This was brought to the attention of the board this evening due to last week's discussion where we were attempting to approve multiple law firms, including a couple of policies. And those policies, Member Corcoran specifically pointed out that she would like them to be reviewed by a law firm. This would be the most appropriate law firm to do that. So with that setup here, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this? Member Tyson?
Yes, so I have a couple of questions for you, Member Chair.
Yes.
I had more time, adequate time now, to research this, and I found that he's with Robichon Chauffeur in Korea.
Yes, I believe
So
so.
I saw his picture, and I saw that his focus is primarily labor law. Do you know if he has represented anybody, any public school in the state of Minnesota?
I could not speak to that directly. If you'd like, I can speak a little bit to why or how I came across the Beck Law Group and why I'm making the recommendation this evening. With that,
So was that a no that you're saying?
I cannot say one way or another.
Okay, because I didn't find any information that led me to believe he specifically worked with public schools before. And then has he ever represented anybody on the board here?
Not that I'm directly aware of.
Could you repeat I'm sorry, Member Tyson?
So I asked two things. I couldn't find where he specifically represented a public school in the state of Minnesota. So I was wondering if the member chair knew that
To the
answer.
second, I'm sorry.
Oh, and
To
the
the
second
second.
one? And the second one was, I'm wanting to know if he represented anyone on the board here so
Yeah,
that they have reference.
Again, not that I'm not aware of him representing in a legal capacity, but I have worked with him before. I do know him.
And
See-
then,
I'm
okay.
sorry, say that again. You, Member Chair, you have worked with this
Yeah,
Alec Beck Group yourself in a personal
yes.
capacity?
Yes, I have worked with, oh gosh, probably 100 attorneys across the state of Minnesota. So
Well, but
I do have some familiarity with Mr. Beck.
I'm wondering if that is a conflict of interest or?
I don't believe so, no. No,
Have we
if
asked-
if we eliminate every attorney that I've worked with in the past, we would be eliminating the ones that we've already approved, and we'd be eliminating the ones that would be up for consideration. In the nature of my professional career, I work with lawyers on a very regular basis, regular discussions with them. It's not unusual for that to occur.
And just to clarify, so that Beck Law Group, then you have worked with them in a personal capacity or in a capacity of a previous
Both.
position? Both.
Both.
But again, you said you've worked with hundreds of lawyers, but, I mean, this is the only one that we're approving this evening.
This evening, to specifically address the question that Member Corcoran had about reviewing those two policies that were on the agenda last week for approval.
Those changes.
Yes.
You spoke to this lawyer about those policy changes? Is that
No.
what you're saying?
No, I can't speak to this lawyer about those policy changes without approval from the board.
But you spoke to this lawyer regarding other matters? is what
Not
you're
in my
saying.
capacity as a school board member.
Right, but in a personal capacity, you had interaction with this.
I have worked with Mr. Beck in the past, yes.
I see that as a, you know, a pretty major.
So as I stated before, I was looking for, at the direction of the board, I sought out an attorney who had experience working with elected officials. To do so, I worked through our elected officials and asked them specifically who they would recommend or different law firms that they would recommend. So individuals such as Karn Housley, Michael Kroon, Mr. Coran, Patty Anderson, Peggy Scott, and others across the state. Anytime you're working to get recommendations for lawyers, a lot of times you end up moving through hoops and you're getting a recommendation over here and a recommendation over there, and then they consolidate and they give another recommendation. In pretty much all cases, I eventually ended up back to the Beck Law Group through those recommendations and the individuals that I worked with. So that is where this name came from, and that's why it's being presented to the board this evening. Member Tyson.
So I heard a couple of legislators' names mentioned just now by you.
Yes.
And I'm going to see them all at the Capitol, March 9th, March 8th.
Yes.
So could you clarify, what were the conversations you had with Karn Housley and Patty Anderson?
The conversations that I had with the various elected officials that I reached out to, as I said, the board has interest in finding legal representation that can help us answer questions that are specific to elected officials. Is there any individuals or any law firms that you would recommend? And the ones that made recommendations, I followed up with those law firms, and then I followed up with the recommendations of from the law firms that were recommended, who they recommended. A lot of times you get a recommendation for a law firm, you call the law firm, they don't specifically handle it, or it's not a caseload that they like to take on, or the type of work that they do. So they refer you to another party, so it ended up being a significant number of phone calls and a lot of kind of around the world, so to speak, to settle on an attorney who finally did say, yes, that's the kind of work that I do. I would be more than willing to help dig into the policies and understand the nuance between elected officials and staff, and exactly the kinds of questions that we had that we would like answered.
Okay, so I just want to clarify one more thing.
Sure.
So when I talk to Karn Housing and Patty Anderson, when I see them soon, are you calling him with Robichon, Schrofer and Correa law firm? Because does he have his own law firm?
Yes, the Beck Law Group is, if you look in the business filings and the Secretary of State website, I looked at it again earlier this week because it seemed that there were individuals who stated, and we had the public comment tonight that stated that this law firm did not exist. The renewal was issued on December 31st of, the filing date was February 18th of 2025. So it is active in good standing. It is registered to Alec J. Beck, and it does match the address that is on file with the law firm.
So we would be hiring him and not this Robichon, Schrofer, and Correa.
Correct. That is the law firm that he is associated with, but he does business as the Beck Law Group, similar to the approvals that we've made with other attorneys where we're not authorizing entire firms, we're authorizing specific attorneys. Follows the same pattern.
This is my last question, I think. Are you putting this forward so that we have an attorney just for board representation and not comprehensive for the district?
That is what this individual would specialize in, would be for elected officials, yes. If you go back to the agenda item.
That feels equitable to me.
If you go back to the agenda item that we had last week, that motion with the multiple law groups failed. And what I heard from the board that evening, it failed because there was concern about the policy. We wanted the policies reviewed by a legal firm. We do not currently have a legal firm approved that could answer that question from a elected official standpoint. Therefore, I put it on the agenda this evening so we could do that policy review that was requested last week.
So the superintendent confirms that we don't have anybody that can look at the policies the vice chair wants looked at?
Not from they can look at it from the perspective of a school district, not from the perspective of an elected official. It's a completely different matter.
Okay, so can the superintendent weigh in on that? So we don't have legal that, I mean,
So if I understand the question, does any of our current legal representation have the capacity to advise the board around policy recommended changes on policy 425 and policy 1211?
correct, thank you.
I would say that I would have a degree of confidence that they could provide opinion on both of those policies. Certainly from a district-wide standpoint, which would, I would assume, encompass elected officials as well. So I certainly would have reason to believe that they could provide legal guidance and legal opinion for the board and the district with respect to the changes on 425 and 1211.
Okay, and I just want to remind everyone around the table that we had all of our legal kind of stripped away at the organizational meeting. So now we're trying to put things back in place. So, thank you.
Member Christensen.
I have a question to Dr. Massey. Are you aware, or perhaps or Director Friedman is not here, but are you aware of other school districts that have special representation just only for elected officials? Is that, because to my knowledge, we haven't had that specific specialty in the past?
Yeah, I guess my answer to that would be I'm not aware of that being a question with other districts or that they've delineated attorneys along those lines. Yeah, so I'm not aware of that.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Member Anderson.
Well, I would say, remembering back, this was at the organizational meeting. It's something that is done every year, and I don't think anything was necessarily stripped away, as was mentioned, but perhaps just more slowly moved back into place, because it's something that we do every year, is to establish these items. And my recollection from that meeting was that both the chair and the vice chair were going to go and look into this and try to find legal representation that is familiar in at least some capacity with representing elected officials, because of the last year. As one of the speakers mentioned here earlier, as anyone can sue a school for any claim, that's the same thing can happen to any board member. And, some employees have better representation than other people in the district. And I honestly think that there's some, for district-wide and legal too, there's gray areas that could use some clearing up. And I would say that I think we would be acting in the best interests to do this for current people and future people on the board and boards to come. And that's all I think I have to say about that.
Member Tyson?
Well, I just want to add that to Member Antonson's point that we did talk about bringing more firms forward. And I did my research at the leadership conference and met with Pemberton. I went to their website then and looked up their, what were their references, what was their story. They've been around, they're very, very reputable. They've been around since 1890 and they've taken over other firms, but when you go right to their website and pull it up, school law is right there. And then public municipalities. So that just feels like comprehensive, good coverage for all of us as well, and is more equitable for the district in terms of having and retaining a firm that's notable and renowned for school law, that just seems like a better investment.
I would just counter that a little bit with, I think I mentioned the phone call last week that was had with myself, Member Corcoran, the superintendent, our district legal representative, Director Friedman. It was clearly stated by that legal representative at the time that her main focus is to represent the district. Doesn't have anything to do necessarily with elected officials. And for that reason, I'm in disagreement with what you just said, because it's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about district representation.
So
to
are you
school.
talking about a civil or a complaint, or the difference between a civil and a criminal complaint?
I'm not talking about any of those right now. I'm just talking about who legal represents, who legal is in support of at the time of their interaction.
Well, let's have the superintendent clarify that, because that isn't, in my mind, how it works.
I'm not sure I understand the
So
question.
could you clarify what Member Anderson's saying, that Pemberton law, being steeped in school law for many, many years as an institution, could not cover us?
I would say that school attorneys, the ones that we've had in the past, the ones that we currently have approved, are in a position to represent the interest of the district. And that would be inclusive of school board members as well. So it's not, I don't see the delineation in their service of the district separate of the school board, so they would be inclusive of school board matters, school board interest, all as it relates to Minnesota and federal statute.
Thank you.
Member Christensen.
Yeah, I just would, I mean, for the reasons that we've all stated before, and I think that we just also have to realize that our council must be, to have, you know, legitimacy and transparency and have the community trust what we're doing here. Our council must be perceived as neutral, professional, non-ideological, and focused on district matters, which I am, for other reasons that we've discussed at the last meeting, I don't think Alec Beck, you know, would check those boxes. I mean, we had concerns about him last meeting. He's been brought forward again. It's been determined, Member Chair, that you've had interactions with this individual. There's questions about which law firm he represents, if it's this law firm or the one that others have come up with. Yeah, for those and reasons we've stated before, I'm not going to be supporting this.
Maybe we should just call the question then.
Yeah.
Before we end discussion, Mr. Chair, if I
Yeah.
can add just one quick comment. I don't want to lose sight of the fact that from a broad perspective, the district still has a need for more comprehensive general counsel legal support. I can't speak to the credentials of Mr. Beck, but there are additional recommendations that I would ask the board to continue to keep in front of them as we move forward as a district. I know you're looking to address the matter at hand around the policies, and I understand that. I can't speak to the credentials of Mr. Beck, but I don't want the board to lose sight of the need for more comprehensive legal representation. I've provided those names previously, and I'll continue to advocate on behalf of more comprehensive legal support for the district.
And I would agree to that, Dr. Massey. We can have more comprehensive legal support. It just, for so many reasons, doesn't have to be this person. There's other law firms, other, you know, you've said that other schools, other districts, not to your knowledge, do not have someone specifically to talk about elected officials. I'm concerned if we have counsel specifically for elected officials, and then the chair and the vice chair are the ones that are able to speak to them. I mean, is that something that serves the whole district? Is it something that serves the entire board? Is it something that serves you know, a particular board member. It seems like it's kind of a slippery
So,
slope.
Member Christensen, I would remind you that that was the directive that we were given at the organizational meeting, was to find somebody who could provide comprehensive representation for elected officials. So if you find Mr. Beck not to be meeting your expectation, and I assume Member Tyson is thinking the same thing, as a board member, you do have the right to reach out to myself or Member Corcoran and make recommendations. So who would you recommend in place of Mr. Beck, knowing full well that our elected officials, the individuals that were elected to represent us at the state level, have recommended Mr. Beck? Who do you recommend?
Well, first of all, the question is not, directed at me right now. We called the question to do the vote on this. And again, I feel like so much of this is we're just bringing controversy upon ourselves. We're stepping on rakes that we do not need to step on. 2 weeks now, people have had concerns about this particular person. So I think in the honor, maybe we just say, okay, this person
Point of
isn't
order.
working, let's find
Point of
someone
order,
else.
there was very little discussion on Mr. Beck last week. The entire discussion revolved around the policy and the specific policies and the request to have the policies reviewed. Mr. Beck was identified as the individual who would do that policy review. So that is inaccurate to say that there was a ton of concern about Mr. Beck in the meeting last week.
There have been pardon me then, there was not specific discussion at the last meeting. There have been several emails.
I received
And I believe that
emails-
there was discussion at the listening session, which I was not at, but I believe there was discussion at the listening session.
There was.
That's what I was referring to.
Okay. Member Tyson.
So, Member Chair, I'm not comfortable with you just referencing lawmakers that I haven't had a chance to discuss it with either. That doesn't make me comfortable when you just say, oh yeah, they all agreed on Beck Law Firm, who I honestly had never heard of and had a hard time finding information. And so if you would have put that in a phone call or an email with specific quotes from Karen Housley or Patty Anderson or Kroon, it would make more sense in my head. But just
Okay.
saying
With-
that, I just.
With all due respect, Member Tyson, I was given a directive by the board to seek out this individual. The only board member outside of, there were 3 board members that did reach out to me to discuss this issue. It was Member Castle, Member Antonsen, and Member Corcoran. I was more than willing to have conversations with you, Member Tyson, and with Member Christensen, should you had questions or concerns.
You certainly
You did
were.
you did not bring them up. I have reached out several times and said, do you
I
have
have
concerns about things on the agenda? Do you want to discuss them?
I have a text on my phone
I
asking
gave-
you where the attachments were for these things that you threw on the agenda.
I cannot
this bundle.
control things that administration is in charge of.
Mm.
I do not have access to the system to add attachments. The information was out there, the information had been provided. I don't have a control over the schedule of when it gets added to the agenda. We discussed that last week as well.
But your response to me was that
Is-
they're in mediation and they're busy, so.
Is there
You knew they
any-
weren't there.
Is there any other discussion on the topic at hand, or should we go to a vote?
Well, I'd like the vice chair to weigh in because.
Yes, I have not.
Was this your intent as the board chair, saying that you directed him to look into these policies by a labor lawyer?
When I made the motion, I just said I wanted an attorney. I didn't specify what attorney, or I just said, I think an attorney needs to look at these policies, so we can
Okay.
at least get more clarity. I want the district to send it back to legal before it goes back to policy, because it seemed like it was too much going on. And the long-standing history of our district is to work with reputable, very large law firms that they're steeped in, where I feel like we really have worked with them for years, and I feel like they're trusted with the district. I did talk to Chair Rabeline, and, I said I couldn't find him either. He did tell me, where to look him up, and I do have a problem with him having his own side, like a side business. It's not, he's associated, but he's also has a side business. So, I can't believe we don't have anyone that we have on retainer now that couldn't give us advice, because we do have some attorneys. Maybe not all the attorneys are maybe not as specialized as he would be, but at least there must be other people like him also that are based in larger firms that we would feel more comfortable, that we have some history with, or that we could, as a board, agree on. I feel like this is kind of a confrontational discussion, and I feel like we're not going to agree. And I believe we should just call for the vote at this point.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, we can go to a vote. Okay, I see none. Now, I did incorrectly hear the vote last week, so to avoid any confusion, I'll ask the clerk to please take the roll call on this.
Can you
This is
repeat?
Item
excuse me.
7.1, appointment of school district legal counsel, Alec Beck.
Correct.
Are you ready?
And who made the motion? Joy? And who seconded?
To what?
It was a while
To
ago,
this.
wasn't
Because
it?
it was a while ago.
Moved and Member Castle seconded.
Okay.
Okay, now are we voting on calling this vote right now?
No, we're voting on the approval of the agenda item, of item 7.1.
Just wanted to,
So an aye is in the affirmative
to,
To
Would
approve
approve.
7.1, yes.
all right. We good? Member Corcoran?
No.
Member Castle?
Aye.
Member Antonsen votes aye. Member Tyson?
No.
Member Christensen?
No.
And Member Rebbeline?
Aye.
Does not pass.
No, motion fails. That brings us to determine next steps in the superintendent search process. We discussed this issue at length. Again, last week, we saw presentations from 3 different search firms, School Exec Connect, Ray and Associates, and MSBA. We're bringing this back to the board tonight, hopefully for the selection of a search firm, or if not, we'll proceed with the authorization that was given to the chair and the board chair to continue the search ourselves and determine next steps. So, does anybody want to kick off discussion on this?
I guess I'll start if somebody else wants to.
Yeah, Member Atkinson?
So before last week, I spoke with numerous people that had had experience with MSBA. I had not heard at that point from anybody regarding Ray and Associates. If I'm recalling correctly, at the end of last week's meeting, I think we decided we were going to mainly focus as a board on Ray and Associates and MSBA, correct?
Yeah, that was the feeling I
Okay,
got as
that's
well.
what I
believe
did,
so.
and
Yeah.
so, okay. I have heard absolutely nothing but rave reviews about working with Dan Bittman and the team that would be behind him. I asked him to, as Member Christensen did over there, about how he's able to manage doing both. And I'm gonna have trouble finding my notes from him specifically, because this was a lot of phone calls. Let's see. So, Dan Bittman said, this is, in a nutshell, that he has led over 50 superintendent searches across the country. He just does one at a time. He's always had very satisfied customers and never had a bad experience doing this with anybody. It's a board-driven process. He has not had an issue balancing the superintendent search as well as doing his superintendency at the district with which he's in. One of the things I liked about what he said was he chose to work with Forest Lake, and I said, why would you choose to work with our situation? And he said he knows Dr. Massey, he knows this area, he's, from the Twin Cities and the greater area up here, he's got the family, and he said he wants to give back and give our community a positive experience that we can feel good about and proud of. And that I thought was kind of important, because, and I'll just talk about what Eric Olson, who's a superintendent of Monticello, worked with Ray and Associates on another board that he sits on for, I can't write technical, with Bob Sansevier. I believe they worked at the same time together on this. Eric Olson is also, his board that he's working with right now as a superintendent of Monticello is also using Ray and Associates, and he said he couldn't give higher praise to working with Dan Bittman. Bob Sansevier also said the exact same thing. Definitely choose them again over and over. And one of the things that sticks out to me, aside from him really wanting to work with us, is that he is willing to do the superintendent contract negotiation, especially, as the concerns were, well, not maybe concerns, but issues that came up the last time you guys maybe did a superintendent contract negotiation on your own. I really don't want any part of doing that. And I think having someone, having done the job for years as a superintendent and having done the job of leading these searches is an important person to do that on top of the work that he would be doing for us. And he would be coming in person and meeting with us every time. We're not going to pay extra for this meeting or extra for that or extra for this advertising. And so for that reason, they are my first choice. Now, I did speak with Amy of MSBA yesterday, and she's very confident she can do a good job for us as well, and said the same thing. She hasn't had any complaints in the years she's been doing this. And I don't have anything against MSBA whatsoever. I know that you guys have used them and you have some bit of loyalty, and maybe I think we all do because we've all taken their training, and there's more, I'm just not going to keep going through everybody that gave me all the positive rave reviews about Ray and Associates. So I think I'll quit right there.
Thank you, Member Anderson. Anybody else have an opinion? Member Tyson?
I guess I'll go. So I had contacted the board chair, Sean. He wasn't listed on Bittman's references, but I contacted Sean Olson. He was the board chair for Monticello, or for Eastern Carver County.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
So that's, and so they had a little different process where their superintendent left mid-year, but he had some great feedback here that, they were really encouraged to have Bittman, given that he's a superintendent, but the candidate pool did not prove to have the depth that they were hoping for, given that he was a superintendent. They thought it would be he thought it would be better, their full board did. He said, specifically in our case, we didn't get many candidates from the metro area. We got them from around the nation and Canada. He said in a lot of smaller rural districts tended to be from out of state. He said, we put our internal candidate in charge, and so that's who they ended up, long story short, going with. He said they didn't have any particular difficulty with Dr. Bittman's availability, even given his other employment. Like any firm, you have to work around different things. Ray's process for community engagement was effective, because that's one thing I wanted to know about. And Dr. Bittman was the person who assisted him from their regional office, and that a very good job was done in sessions and organizing feedback in an actionable way for the board. So that was important to me too. How do they synthesize it all down so that we can move forward? From Monticello, Jamie Sieben, she had a response that was more positive. She said they're not concluded in their search yet, so we don't know, but moving forward, they were organized, same thing, that they synthesized it and had actionable items they could work with. So anyway, I also talked with MSBA's references. Allison Sherman from the Stillwater District, they used MSBA and hired, excuse me, in 2023. Lots of positives, that they worked through a lot of great information. They liked having that transition year, and they did use it for their superintendent after that 1 year that they do free of charge after their superintendent was in place. Egan Apple Valley Rosemont 196, they hired in 2024. Corey Johnson is their board chair, and lots of positives from him in terms of the communication and how smoothly the process went and how easy they were to communicate with the focus groups of students, staff, community, all of that. And also at the MSBA Leadership Conference, I talked to Robbinsdale board member because they had recently used MSBA. And again, I heard those same positive things, that they're highly organized, easy to communicate with, they had a great outcome. So, and I think Member Castle and I kind of agreed that MSBA, they've kind of fine-tuned their process, and I think what they offer is just different because they've looked at it over the years and they've made changes. And so I think that's important because you need to move your search process forward, and how can you make it better for boards, and in finding and in aligning those goals and things that they want to see in their new superintendent. And I think Member Christensen talked about how, MSBA is kind of higher up in what they offer and what you get for your money. So MSBA is my first choice, but Ray and Associates is a close second. I think they're both great search companies. I did like taking into account the feedback I got from their board members.
All right.
So what I did like the most about MSBA is that they did have a improvement process that the other companies didn't talk about. However, if you've been in the business long enough, you've probably already done all that improvement. So it can be a positive and it can be a negative if they haven't gotten there yet. I talked to several board members where they had repeated searches on the list. So the list had the 2021, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2022, 23.
Yeah.
And so there were several of them that had done it 3 times during this period of time for MSBA. And while it seemed that the general consensus is that they like the MSBA, there's a couple things that don't seem right to me. So there was the board couldn't come up with somebody, and so MSBA come up with a interim, and apparently that satisfied their guarantee of being able to place somebody. I don't agree with that. An interim person should be an interim, and then when you get your final person, that should be the one that satisfies that clause that they have for being able to have a guarantee. And then there was some concern about the questions to the prospective candidates and whether or not the board was able to get the questions that they wanted during the interview process. And that doesn't sit right with me.
Interesting.
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
That the board, the questions that were going to be asked to the prospective candidates, it wasn't that there was, one of the board members was not happy about the questions that were being asked, as if they couldn't get their question to the prospective candidates during the interview process.
There must have been.
Like they didn't have enough input into the questions or at all, they just had to take MSBA's.
That's what it sounded like to me, is that the
Yeah.
MSBA came up with the questions, and even if they were to take input from the board,
Right.
they weren't happy with the questions that were presented to the candidates.
Okay. Thank you for
So that's
clarifying.
just,
Interesting.
otherwise, everybody did seem to be relatively happy with the MSBA and the way that they worked and everything.
Gotcha.
I have a question, Member Castle.
You have a question for what?
For Member Castle?
Yeah, go ahead, and then Member Christensen can go.
Me go or her go?
You go ahead.
So, Member Castle, that was a great report. What districts were all of those? Can you just name which ones they were?
So I called, I don't have my notes with me, but I called like six different places. Some of them were pretty outstate, and I think that was, the outstate one was the one that had the interim.
Okay. And then was it a recent one or an older one? Just
It
curious.
was ones that would had the multiple
Okay,
searches done. Because that concerns me of why do you have to have so many searches done in this amount of time? So
And-
if you didn't, that tells me that you didn't find a good candidate.
so were they on these?
They were on this
Okay.
list, yes.
Okay, great.
And so I went through the list and marked off, okay, that these ones were in 25, 26, and they also did it in 23, 22, and they also did it in
Oh, I see you
22, 21.
cross-referenced them on
And
here.
so I went to the ones that had the most change, or searches during that period of time that's on this
Okay,
list,
gotcha.
to ask them, why they had so many searches.
Okay,
And there were some that were, the board, like the interim one, was the board couldn't come up with couldn't decide on the candidates.
mhm.
And then MSBA produced an interim. And
Gotcha.
then but then MSBA, or the board said that MSBA considered that as satisfying their clause for
Okay.
getting a candidate, even though it was an interim person.
yeah, that's kind of what happened to Ray and Associates with Eastern Carver County, is that the depth of the candidate pool wasn't as good as they thought it would be, and so they ended up keeping their interim assistant superintendent on and hiring them. But it wasn't them.
No, this
Okay.
is a different situation where they installed an interim person. They didn't
Oh.
have an interim person.
Okay.
They did a search. The board didn't agree on any of the candidates.
Okay,
So then MSBA offered an interim candidate.
okay,
And then when they accepted that interim candidate, MSBA said that satisfies their,
there, okay.
that
Thank you.
that guarantee. Yes.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, Member Christensen.
Well, Member Castle, I wish that you had your notes this evening so that we could refer to that a little bit, because I think you're talking about two different things. One thing you said, that someone on some board said that they couldn't get the questions that they wanted.
They weren't happy with the questions that they were able to have to the candidates, yes.
Okay, because in the notes that I have, Barb Dorn said, our district leads it, we lead it, and they are just there to guide and support us. And she was talking about numerous ways of how they do those things, so, I don't, and additionally, there's always ways, like as a board, that you could follow up probably with a candidate if you wanted to. So I'd be interested in a little bit more information on that, or if that was a one-off, if one person felt that way, or if it was felt
It
more
was
that
only
way.
one of the people that I spoke with.
One of the.
So, yes.
Yeah, one of the several people you spoke with. And then also, you were saying that they weren't happy with the candidate pool, or what you, I guess you answered the question when Member Tyson was asking you.
Yes, with the interim issue, the board did not agree on anybody from the candidate pool.
So just another follow-up question. So at our last meeting, you were talking about how, I just wrote some quotes that we were all saying that you were really impressed by MSBA and that they were always improving, and so you feel like maybe the information that you found out, you've changed your mind about that, or?
Well, maybe this need more improving till they come up to the same caliber as dedicated outfits that do searches.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have anything else you wanted to cover, Member Christensen?
No, you can
Well,
go.
I mean,
Okay.
I've just,
Yeah, Member Corcoran.
just hearing our discussion, I think that, they're both great reputable firms. They both have had many searches. I feel like, there's going to be negative said about either one, and there'll be positive said about either. Not one's going to be 100% happy with each search firm. My only problem is, I like both of them. Of course, MSBA, I said, is like the gold standard in my eyes. With their proven track record, we have history. They just know our district. I just feel like they've done, 250. They've done so many searches. It's kind of like, to them, it's, you do have a dedicated person, but they have an amazing staff behind them. And maybe Amy is busy, but you have amazing people to work with her. I feel like with Ray and Associates, I don't know who his people is his backup. If he had a family emergency, if he had something happen in his job or his primary job, who will we have? Who's going to be that support system for us? I feel like MSBA is such a structure that I feel like if something happened to Amy, we would have really dedicated people behind her. I don't know if I feel comfortable with Ray having that structure. That is my only concern really with them. I think, like I say, they both seem really good. I've had great feedback from both sides, not really any negative. So I feel like, I could support both, but I prefer MSB. And the money's the same. I feel like financially they're kind of on same kind of playing field. I don't feel like that's even a problem for me with the money. But they each have their strengths, but I feel like they would both do a good job. And I believe we do need a search firm to help guide us through, since we have new members on the board that have not done searches. Because it's a very eye-opening experience. I think you work together as a group. You get to know what's really important to you and what you feel is strongest as far as the attributes and the strengths of the superintendent that you want. And you don't really talk about that until you have someone kind of bring you together to talk through all the different parts of it. I think that would bring us together as a board too. So that is how I feel.
I feel like Member Corcoran kind of set me up there perfectly because
Well,
I'm going to get contradictory and say I'm probably the only one here that doesn't feel it's necessary to work with the search firm, but I've been through executive search on both sides of the coin. I've been recruited, and I've done recruiting as an executive search. But what I mean by Member Corcoran setting that up perfectly is I see tremendous value in having an executive search work with us, especially work with this board. I think it'll bring much needed unity, some cohesiveness, rebuild some trust. There's obvious trust issues that we all have with one another in one capacity or another. So I see tremendous value there, not in just picking the next executive to lead the district and work with us to do that, but in making this unit a little bit more functional, a little bit more productive, and being able to get some work done, and rather than failing on these 3-3 votes all the time. I know I've opined to a couple of people in the past that the board majority right now are the three that are willing to band together and say no. But in doing so, that causes damage to the district. It causes damage to that. It's ultimately going to cause damage to the students and their experience, and I don't want to see that happen. So with that, I had a couple of observations. I contacted MSBA, I contacted Ray, I contacted several of the districts that work behind them. I even contacted Dr. Bittman's former board chair, and that was a rocky road. And I wanted to understand, how that worked out, why that occurred, where did this reputation in certain circles come from, and I thought it was excellent that both the MSBA contacts that I worked with and the Ray and Associate contacts that I worked with were very forthcoming with information. They answered difficult questions very directly, and I appreciated that. A couple of things that did stand out to me, though, that I've made notes here about is with the compare and contrast here. I think both are competent, especially when it comes to law and regulations and the different types of things and how the HR function works, and we have a great HR team here too. But things that stood out and that I contrasted between the two was that yes, Ray had a dedicated local individual that was going to work with us. MSBA had a dedicated representative, but they didn't have a dedicated individual that did the vetting, that looked at the candidates, that gave opinions. They had some superintendents that they relied on regionally, but we didn't know who that was going to be, and it could depend on the schedule, it could depend on the applicant, and there was going to be some perhaps some give or take there. Another thing that really stood out to me right off the bat was that MSBA wasn't willing to take our current applicant pool that we have. They said they would be willing to encourage the individuals who have already applied to the district to apply again through the MSBA system, where my conversations with Ray and Associates were the exact opposite. They said, you send me the names and I'll get to work tomorrow morning on vetting them out and making sure they're still interested and they have the proper credentials and they would be a good fit for the district. So a little bit difference there. To that point, that was one thing that Ray was very adamant about, was that they were willing to start tomorrow morning and get this underway. MSBA did say it would take some time to get their system running, to get the job posted, and then there would be a period of waiting for the applicants to come to them, where MSBA was a very passive organization when it came to executive search. They sat back and they waited to see who applied to them. They had a network that they would say, we posted this job, but they weren't mindful of, hey, I know somebody here, I know somebody there that would be an excellent fit for this. They weren't going to reach out and have those conversations. When I asked if they did any active recruiting, they actually seemed kind of offended at the idea of doing active recruiting. Like there was something wrong with trying to attract the very best talent to our district, and that didn't sit right with me. Another thing that actually I think that was it. That was really the only the major contrast between the two organizations that I vetted out in my search, and that's kind of my thoughts on the issue. Did anybody else have any other questions or comments, or even want to propose a motion?
I move to approve Ray and Associates.
Second, so moved.
All right, we have a motion and a second on approving Ray and Associates. Is there any discussion on that?
Well, I feel like I should add this last part from Sean Olson, the board chair. I mean, we're not really affected by this because we don't have CESO. But he said one other district-specific concern we had with Ray was their association with CESO. At the time of the search, our two previous finance directors had gone to work for them, one in an executive leadership capacity, and they had recently hired away our longtime finance manager. As a result of where we are in that relationship with them, we did not utilize that partnership with CESO at all. So that was kind of a negative for them. And I wasn't really going to share that about Ray, but
Are you
I
talking
think, yep,
What
About-
is CESO?
CESO, I think
Yeah,
it
the
must.
civil engineering and environmental branding,
Mhm.
I don't,
And we don't have that, but they obviously hired somebody away from their district, and
that is the world of
They weren't
executive
happy.
search.
so, just adding
Okay.
that on.
All right.
So that sounds like a trust issue there. but-
Okay.
And then I do want to add that, Member Chair, MSBA provided the map in here that shows all the areas where retired superintendents reside or are appointed to
Yes, they did.
bring in.
Yes.
So you saw that in here?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yep, and I do know that they go outside of those regions, just
that
like
they-
Barb Dorn would not be our representative, and Amy would be.
Gotcha.
Amy is not assigned to our area. She
And
does
that-
not work in our primary area.
And that they also have the national recruiter who works.
Yes,
Right.
yes,
So you're not just pulling in applications, you have a recruiter that's finding them that
passively,
work with the district that
correct.
align, with the goals that align for your district in
Correct.
hiring your
And then that was a
superintendent.
passive search is what they shared with me.
So that's what you were referring to?
Yeah, the difference between a passive and an active executive search, a passive search is you just put the job up on a website and you see who clicks on a link and clicks apply.
No,
An
but-
active search is when you actually reach out to individuals that you know would be a good fit.
But that's
In
what the
fact-
recruiter actively does. She stated that he goes to different areas and different states to actively recruit.
MSBA indicated to me that they do not do any active search in the phone call that I had with them. In fact, when when Dr. Massey announced his retirement, I did my own active searching. I called individuals that I felt would be a really good fit, that I think that I would love to see applications for, reached out to them directly and said, I would encourage you to apply to this role. So I think it's a very important piece of executive search, and I think it's a very important piece that the individuals who've already applied to this job be given the opportunity, at least get reached out by the organization and said, and vet them out. I think it's only fair to them to do that, so. But is there any other discussion on approving Ray and Associates?
Well, I would just like to add a couple more things that I don't think we've brought back up to the table about this particular firm. One of them being that they do those with the semi-finalists, or, you know, midway in the process, doing these video interviews that are candid with the applicants, where they're answering, you know, questions that they have not been given beforehand, and so very off the cuff, very genuine, and I like that we would get a moment of that in between, since, you know, it's gonna be not until we have people in the room that we're actually interviewing them for the work.
So those are the virtual stakeholder sessions you're referring to for Ray?
No.
Okay.
He mentioned,
Yeah.
am I speaking correctly?
Yeah,
I mean-
I wrote it down.
yeah, because, I mean, and I thought that was.
And those are not this virtual stakeholder
They are
sessions?
video, they're not stakeholder sessions. These
They're
are,
just
these are
us.
sessions.
With the candidates?
Yes.
Right? Okay.
They price match, so I did get, from Eric Olson and Monticello, he said, you know, they came down and priced for us twice,
Yeah.
$5,000, so, I mean, as far as, I don't know, I can't remember the other thing I was gonna say, so I guess I'll leave it at that.
Okay. If you think of it, you can always come back with
Okay.
it. Is any, well, assuming, do we have more discussion?
Here's the other thing I was gonna say, is they have been doing this for over 2 decades. Is it 3 decades?
It's been quite some time. It
Yeah, I
was
mean-
early 2000s, I thought.
And so, I mean, I have really zero worries. Both MSBA and Ray and Associates said I'm available 24/7. I think both of the people that are running these searches, or would be running the searches for us, have the capacity to do great work. I just feel more comfortable having a superintendent do it, because this is such, like, the pinnacle job of our whole district. And I think he himself, having done the work, is gonna have good insights. And everyone I talked to for Ray and Associates said he's an amazing communicator, and he was able to bring people together. So, and Amy, you know, said that she can do that too, but I guess I'll leave it at that.
Member Christensen.
Well, I mean, I think that we can just probably kind of keep going round and round here. I mean, to me, MSBA, to Member Corcoran's point, is the gold standard. Ray and Associates would be my second choice, and I just think that, you know, this might be a good opportunity for us to come together. I mean, we need a search firm, we need to get this going. So I'm willing to vote for Ray and Associates to get this moving and to have us come together and just move forward. We need to move forward on this. So.
Yes, we do.
And I just want to note, Member Chair, that I
Yeah.
liked the email he sent to all of us.
Yes, I do too.
Oh,
Dr.
Bittman, yeah, and
Yeah.
I'd share with the board too, that Dr. Bittman reached out to me very early in the process, before I was even ready to engage with anybody. This is a search he's had his eye on for a while, and I believe he sincerely wants to help the district. I believe that in my heart of hearts. And he was
He's genuine.
extremely available for me. I called him at all times throughout the day, as early as probably 7:45. He answered the phone. I called him, I think, this afternoon, around 3 o'clock this afternoon. He answered the phone, so I have no concerns about availability either. But I did have a similar experience with MSBA. I called them more during the business hours, just knowing how they're structured, and I had no problem getting a hold of Amy either.
She was very open.
Yeah. If there's no other discussion, I'd love to call a vote. Yeah?
Yeah, so clean up this mess of
All
my.
right. Member Clerk, I'll
Get your
have you do the
list.
roll call.
All right, I will start with Member Tyson.
Aye.
Member Corcoran.
Aye.
Member Antonsen. Aye. Member Castle.
I,
Member Rebbeline.
Aye.
Member Christensen.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
All right. We have, we've adopted a search firm,
Yes.
and Member Corcoran and I will continue with the authorization that we had. I'll give Dr. Bittman a call tomorrow morning
Wonderful.
and get him on the hook, and we'll get, I'll try to set up a conversation between the two of us. We'll bring an update to the board in early March. But,
At the next meeting then?
yeah, I was actually just trying to pull up the date on the March date.
It's like the 5th, I think.
March 5th.
March 5th.
Yeah, so we'll have an update there. As I indicated earlier, when I spoke with Dr. Bittman, he was ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
So unless I see an objection on slowing down, I would suggest we go.
Yes.
And I really do like the fact that they're going to take those existing
So
people
do
that
I.
applied. I mean, that is, because how long ago that was, and they're waiting.
2 months,
And
3
I don't want
months.
them to have to reapply and go through all that
No,
again.
me neither.
So I am glad you move forward with those people, so
So
you can
am I.
vet them. Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is a post-discussion, it's probably in every field, but I know for myself, if I was gonna be a manager of something that I do now, I do machine programming, I've been a machinist for many, many years. Having done the job, I know what to look for in a candidate.
For sure.
So I think it's a positive, a very good thing that a person who's going to do the search has actually done the job, because they know they know what they need to expect from that candidate.
No, I'm just,
I would just say I
Glad we're moving
appreciate
forward.
the cooperation or
Mhm.
consensus
Yeah.
at the table.
Yeah, I'm
and
excited. We had a unanimous vote. I
Robust
think that,
discussion on it all.
I hope that means good things for when we identify the next superintendent. We have a unanimous vote. I think that would be an exciting way to start this up, so.
Well, and I think we can all agree, I just want to close with this.
Yeah,
Sorry.
please, go ahead.
That, they were all excellent firms with reputable backgrounds, and a lot of the references were positive on both sides, so it was a tough decision.
Yes. I would like to add one more thing. We haven't talked about this recently. We had brought it up a while back about having MSBA do a board have
Oh.
the self-survey for the board.
That's
And I
right.
mean, I do believe that this superintendent search process is gonna bring us some of that work and evaluation and what cooperation will be happening, but I don't think we should I don't think we should forget about that either, about
No,
having
that's a great-
MSBA do that, because they were booked out quite a bit.
And we did agree on that as a board in one of our last meetings. I know Dr. Massey did reach out to them. We can probably bring back proposals for next steps in March
Yeah,
as
they
well.
indicated that they could probably initiate the process in as early as late April or May.
May.
And into the summer. I think you just have to determine what's the best timing of that, given the
Yeah.
other things on the table.
Right, and, yes.
Do we want to add that to the agenda in March? Sure. I know we're getting a little off topic here, but I think
Sorry,
it's.
I just wanted to say that before I
Yeah.
forget, and
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up, and just to clarify, we're talking about the board self-evaluation?
Correct.
That's a
Yeah.
great process, that
Yep.
would be excellent.
Okay, why don't we,
Add that.
Member Corcoran, if you wouldn't mind following up with MSBA on
Yep,
that and getting
yep.
some scheduling options, we'll bring that back to the board in the March 5th meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give Dr. Bittman a call tomorrow morning, and any changes, of course, I'll email the board just to make everybody aware of what's going on. And I think we can move on to item 7.3, school board vacancy discussion. All right, so with this, Member Corcoran and I had a couple of discussions over the past few weeks on what we were going to bring as a recommendation to the board. And I think what we ultimately settled on was that we went through an application process. I believe it was late October or early November that we settled that. We're going to propose that we do the same thing. There was some discussion, but I don't feel like we finalized the recommendation on whether or not we would accept the 11 applicants for reconsideration, or if we just wanted to move on with a new batch. And we hadn't really solidified how long we would leave the application process open. I was thinking about 30 days. So those are kind of the things that are on the table. So I'll throw that out there and open it up for discussion and see what the board thinks. Member
Well, we
Corcoran?
did talk about having someone facilitate the discussion, and we were thinking internal, someone from the district, but that's kind of over the line a little bit of the
Yeah.
expectation for one of our own employees. But now that MSB is not doing our search, maybe that's something we want to consider for them helping facilitate the discussion.
Did you want to
as-
have that conversation with MSBA?
When I
with
talked about the
board
maybe it's just a
self-evaluation?
one day, couple hours, trying to work through that. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Just with, like, in a workshop with just
Kind of,
us, the
yeah.
board members, or is this a public meeting? I don't know.
It would be a public meeting.
Probably
but
be
we
public,
have-
but it'd be more of a, kind of a facilitator to help us kind of figure out what we want to do for fill the vacancy, maybe to come together for qualifications. I mean, just to kind of bring us together with a discussion and having someone lead the discussion. But also, we do need to open it up again for more applicants,
Yeah.
too.
I'd-
So, I don't
I'd
know.
be,
Well, should we, okay.
yeah, I was going to say, I'd be
I don't
happy
know.
with that if we want Member Corcoran to follow up with MSBA, see if that's something they can provide
It's
for
an
us.
idea.
Are you aware that they do that, Member Corcoran?
I'm
I mean,
not
I would
sure, but
definitely ask 'em.
I can ask.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, if they do the self-evaluation, it's kind of almost in that same kind of vein of talking through things like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So
A
I'll
mini
find out.
self-evaluation.
Yeah, a
That'd be
mini,
great.
a mini
Yeah.
self-evaluation. Yeah, I'll reach out to them and talk to
Do
them
you
about it.
think it's, I guess, because to run to be on the school board, you're only, like, you have to live in the district and you have to be 21, like, those are it, that's it. There's nothing else that you have to do. Can we, I don't know, that, when you said qualifications, I just,
Well,
I don't wanna-
qualities, I should say.
Okay,
Qualities
okay.
are what we want as our board
sort of like the
member.
profile, I mean.
Profile, yeah, exactly, the
Yeah.
profile.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of, I mean, I just feel like we need to come together, and we need to find a way to do that. And I mean, we can have everyone apply again, but it's just if we don't know what we're really looking for,
Right.
then it's all,
That might help us work through the applicants, because I feel like with the last round of applicants that we individually found our favorites, and we just stuck with our favorites. and-
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that may have affected the outcome of some of the votes. But, yeah, I think that's a great idea. We could bring it back on the March 5th meeting. We're
I'll
we're
talk- I'll
loading
let-
up a
I'll let
lot.
you
I know
update.
that the
I'll
meetings
ask
tend to get
them.
long, but.
So are we gonna wait to put the application out, the announcement out until we figure out if MSBA can help us, or can
Or
we
should we
keep moving
throw-
this
I
along?
think we should
Yeah.
still have applicants
okay,
go.
I think-
I mean, but then before we kind of get into the discussion of them, we can have more clarity for what
facilitated-
we're looking for.
So then the other question that was on the table was how long on the applications? 30 days?
What was it last time?
Um,
28 days?
It was,
Oh, it's
it was
2
3
weeks.
weeks. It was 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah, because we were trying to fit it in,
think
so if
that's
we did an
plenty.
appointment in December, it would be,
so it's the
Oh, right.
night
somebody would be
between.
there by
Yeah.
the organizational meeting. So we were
So
kind
by
of time
mid-March.
boxed on
Yeah.
the application process. This time, I don't feel like it's necessary to time box it. I think it's more
I-
prudent to find somebody than it is to,
Mhm.
Yeah, I think this month might be a decent, because we're gonna have a lot going on to this, I'm guessing, with,
if we gave a direction to administration to basically regurgitate the last application we had on the 23rd, and post it on the 23rd, then it could be, well, because of the way February falls, we could have set a closing we could even do March 30th and then look at it at the April 2nd board meeting. That gives us a little over a month for applications. I feel like that word of mouth gets around really well there.
End of March.
Otherwise, we could do it for just shy of a month, have them be due on March 16th, which would be 2 weeks earlier, and then we could discuss it again at the March 19th meeting. I don't have a strong feeling either way. I just kind of look around the board and see what everybody thinks.
What do you think, Superintendent?
Yeah, I think.
I mean,
enough
is a
time.
month too long? Wait,
Feel free to sit back and say.
is a month
Yeah,
a month
I
seems
mean,
long to me,
You had a
but
process, I think.
What do we do in
I'm hearing
HR?
you say you want to reactivate the similar process that you activated before.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to take long for us to get it posted. There are paper deadlines that we'd have to meet.
right.
If the goal is post as soon as those deadlines, we can get it out there ASAP. It's just a matter
Yeah,
of
it's
when they
already
get
ready to
posted.
go.
Yeah.
Yep.
If
I
you're-
think a month is long, but what do you
You're
think?
calling for the same application
Hmm.
form
Well,
to be completed?
today's the 19th. If it was due on the 16th, that's just shy of 4 weeks.
That'd be about the same length of time as it was
Yeah.
before, I think.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, if we
I'm
just
good with that.
use what we
Okay.
have and go with it, I don't know.
And then do we want to leave the process open or, because there's 11 applicants we've talked about at great length and caused a little consternation with the board. I don't know if we want to get back and have those discussions again, but we certainly can.
Oh, you're talking, what did?
So we had 11 applicants
Yes.
last time. Would they be eligible
Oh.
to
Oh.
reapply?
I think
Think
we
so.
need to move forward and
Okay.
with new applicants. Don't you believe that at this point?
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's
they've
only
already
fair.
been, yeah.
Okay.
So give us a deadline.
Yeah, so I was going to say,
So we-
I don't have this written down, but if I'm understanding what the board is intending here is we'll direct administration, and this will be a motion, I'll move to direct administration to utilize the same application that we approved in November, to post it by Monday,
My son.
and set a deadline of the 16th of March, and that the only difference in this process would be that the 11 individuals who applied in November would no longer be eligible for reapplication.
And you're referring to Monday, February 23rd?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, Monday, February 23rd. Did you capture that, Dr. Massey?
Yep, and if I miss anything, Joy's got it. Joy, question?
I do.
Yes.
My only question is February 23rd may be too early for paper postings due to deadlines. But we can have it
Okay.
posted to our website.
You may want to go March 23rd, given that, if you're looking for a longer.
Oh, did I say February? I meant March 23rd, I'm sorry.
So hang on, we're going to post.
Thank you.
March 23rd?
No, you guys would start February 23rd, the app.
That's the February 23rd date that I'm saying, maybe
Yeah.
too early.
Oh.
for the
I don't think we'll get it in by
papers.
then.
Or as soon as possible.
Okay. that-
Let's
that
throw,
works.
let's throw an as soon as
Yeah.
possible in there.
Okay.
Okay, and then Joyce, since that, most of that motion was off the top of my head there, can you please repeat that back so the board knows exactly what was proposed?
Could I ask just a clarifying
Sure.
question before the motion? Is there anything that says we can, are we able to eliminate the 11? Is that any kind of,
Should we include
I
that?
think that was part of my
That was
motion,
part of
wasn't it?
it.
Yes.
but we are eliminating the 11?
Yes.
But I'm saying, can we do that? Like legally, is there any
Oh.
problem? Like we can do that?
Oh,
We can we legally, I mean, I don't know what the answer is, is why I'm asking.
I'm not a
Can we-
lawyer, but I would be concerned about overtly,
Yes, that's
telling
what I'm
somebody
thinking.
they're
I'm
not
thinking you
eligible to
can't
apply.
tell people that they
yeah,
can't apply.
let's strike that. We've already eliminated all of them via motions before. So I think a reapplying would be,
True, true.
would be fruitless, but,
I don't think we can stop them. or
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
can't-
It would
We
make-
can't
I-
tell
I
them
would be
that they
concerned.
can't.
Can't.
It would
Yep.
make sense for them to make that decision.
yep, yep. I would agree with that.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a whole bunch of
Good call, Jill.
amended
I don't- I guess
motions
it's
there.
late.
What does the motion turn out to be, Joy,
So
please?
essentially is what I've got at the moment, utilizing the previous application that was posted October 31st, 2025, I've got it right here, posted in the papers and the website?
Yes.
By February 23rd, or as soon as possible, with a March 16th deadline for a review at the April 19th school board meeting?
At the March 19th school board meeting.
March 9th, yes. There
Yep.
we go. Did I miss
Okay.
anything?
I don't believe so. So
Good
that is
job.
my motion. I'd be looking for a second on that one.
I'll second that.
Okay, and Joy, can you go through that one more time so everybody knows what we're voting on here?
With utilizing the previous school board vacancy application, have it posted to let me clarify, where are we which paper are we posting it to?
This would be a,
Because it's not a
It'd be the same.
bid, it's a notice of vacancy.
so this would be at administration's discretion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's nothing that says we can't put it in both papers.
Yeah, I was.
Correct.
But, yeah, I mean.
Yeah, we'll leave
right.
that to administration's discretion, should you choose to put it in both.
So utilize the previous school board vacancy application that was put out on October 31st, 2025, posted at the administration's discretion of paper by February 23rd or as soon as possible, also on the website, with a March 16th deadline for applications, with a school board review of March 19th at the meeting.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you, Joy.
Thank you.
Is there any discussion on the motion and second that we have on the table here?
No, but thank you for Member Christensen pointing that out.
Yeah, excellent.
I would point out, if I recall correctly, the application had a set of disclosures that raised some concerns.
Yeah.
So I would maybe ask the board to consider whether or not you'd want to proceed with that list of disclosures
Yeah.
after the concerns that were raised.
And can the board chair review what those were?
Yeah, I don't know them off the top of my head.
Oh,
I'd have to
okay.
go back and,
I don't either.
I can read them.
Yes, thank you.
That'd be
Yeah.
helpful.
yeah.
Actually, maybe, let me write one. You were talking about the portion where the applicant is affirming the information is provided true and correct. Legal citizen of the United States of America, eligible to vote in Minnesota, do not currently occupy an elected public office. I do not have an employment relationship with ISD 831 where I expect to make over $20,000 in a fiscal year. I'm at least 21 years of age. I've been a resident of ISD 831 for at least 30 days. I am not directly or indirectly involved in any group that aim to overthrow the United States government. I am not part of any groups that promote directly or indirectly hate or violence against elected officials and or publicize dishonest information or deceitful propaganda about ISD 831. And I have not been convicted of criminal sexual misconduct for which registration is required under Minnesota Statute 243.166.
Okay,
That's
thank
the
you.
one you're referring to, right?
Yes,
Yep.
those are the.
Yeah. Most of which come from statute. I think
Yes.
the
Yeah.
second to last two or three were additional.
Do we want to try to amend that at all, or are we good just moving forward with what we had before? Member
Well,
Christensen?
I think it's hard, I appreciate that, Joy, thank you. It's hard to discuss it without having it in front of
Right in
us, so
front of you.
it's hard. But I do remember the, overthrowing the government or whatever. I mean, I would say keep in what we're supposed to keep in.
The statute.
The statute or
Yeah.
the, whatever we're supposed to have in there, and if there's two things in there, I mean, I don't even know what that means. Of course, you're not gonna, if you're wanting to be on the school board, I don't think you're wanting to overthrow the government, so.
Yeah, I'll second that.
I would take that part out and just keep it clean. Again, I don't have it in front of me, but,
Okay, so your motion is to strike the sentence about overthrowing the government?
well, I'm leery to make a motion because I don't have it in front, I don't,
Would you like me to
Steal it for you?
But, would
I
you like me
see
to
it.
print
Yeah.
them quick?
Or email it, can you shoot it
Wait,
to us in
I
email?
mean,
Member Tyson?
I think Member Christensen would just like it to follow the statute.
yes.
Which is
thank
what
you.
I would
Can
like,
Can it just
with
follow the
nothing
statute?
additional.
Yes, yes. That is, my motion is
contain
to
statute verbiage.
Follow the statute.
follow the statute as required by law and not to only add things that are,
Whatever.
Yeah, I'm fine with that too. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
you're just
you.
talking about that section on the bottom, the affirmation section?
the disclaimer, the
Yes.
whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever by statute we have to have.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure, I would be even, I would even, since I don't think we have a motion on the table for that, do we?
Well, technically, Jill just made a motion and Gail
Second.
seconded
Okay, so we do have a
Yes.
motion on the table, okay.
Strike that.
Or amendment to the motion.
with the
Yeah.
amendment.
Amendment to the
Okay.
motion.
Okay, and that's clear enough to administration on what to do? I was just going to say we could give administration discretion, but
Um,
if,
To have the information provided that they swear or affirm to contain only what statute verbiage as required by law.
okay,
Yes.
perfect. Do we have any discussion on that? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, that motion carries. We'll trust administration to make the edits as necessary. We have we do have well, obviously, we have a motion on the table to.
That was the amendment to the motion.
Okay, great. I'm trying to keep track. I get lost sometimes myself in procedure. Do we have any other discussion on going out for the application?
No.
All right. In that case, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, so that will be posted. That brings us to 8.1, new business of the 2027-2029 Achievement and Integration Plan. This was primarily put on the agenda for public awareness, so they could see the plan, they could see the full text of it. Of course, it's here if we want to have some discussion. Following our kind of our first reading, second reading approval process, it'd be here for amendments should somebody want to offer one. If not, I don't even see any discussion, so we'll go in. This brings us to, I would entertain a motion to close the meeting as permitted by Minnesota Statute Section 13D.03 to consider strategies for labor negotiations as it pertains to the following bargaining units: directors, principals, and supervisors.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, that motion carries, and we will now go into closed session.